our first stop is not a ghost town, but it has to do with our first ghost town that we're going to visit. Mount Mitchell is kind of a special place. We're going to take a hike here up to the top of the hill. And 1,500 years ago or so, American Indians considered it a sacred place. Then during the territorial period of Kansas, which was 1854 to 1861, it was part of the Captain William Mitchell land. And he was part of the Beecher Bible and Rifle Colony that we're going to learn about here shortly. And so they formed the town of Wabaunsee just a few miles away. And so here at the top, you can see they talk about that. And we have a really cool view from the top. It was a nice short hike to the top. Good way to start the day. Beautiful look at Wabaunsee County. And right over there is where we're going to be heading next. And just as you're heading that way, there is a little school called Cottonwood, and it was built there. You can see in 1885. And nice little stop. It's right in between the two on the way to Wabaunsee. So from Mount Mitchell, just a few miles to the west, down the road here, is Wabaunsee, and very interesting history here, and some interesting things to see. I'm sitting here, and I'm looking directly at the Bible and Rifle Church, the Beecher Bible and Rifle Church. Very unusual name for a church. And the story goes is there was an abolitionist preacher named Henry Ward Beecher. And he was, very against slavery. And so there was a group of immigrants from Connecticut that moved out here, and they formed this community, Wabaunsee. Mr. Beecher sent crates of rifles marked Beecher's Bibles out here. And so it was able to get through the kind of pro-slavery areas from east heading out to the west. And then they were able to defend themselves and even actually join other militias to fight for their anti-slavery beliefs. So it became the county seat of Wabaunsee County for a time, and then that was transferred over to Alma, which is not too far down the road, after the Civil War. And so what's left besides this church, which is a very interesting story, obviously, and well kept. It looks like they still have services here regularly. There are a few other old buildings, and there's a community of people that still live here. So definitely not an abandoned town, but a very interesting history. One that was, this was a stop kind of on the Underground Railroad in Kansas, so it was kind of a safe place as you were trying to navigate your way through those definitely trying times. Right along the main street, there's a nice little memorial. Talks about the history of the town and honors some of the people that helped build it, and goes through a little bit of the history that I just talked about with the Beecher Bible and Rifle Colony. And so a nice display of 3 or 4 displays there. And then it also talks about the history of the town and what happened and how it faded after the Civil War. There's some cool old pictures of the town. I love seeing those old pictures. And it also talks about kind of how the church was the main thing that kept the town alive, and how they've tried to keep the town, going with the church, and there's about the resurgence of the church. So cool little stop, a good way to explore more of Wabaunsee. I'm here at the Shamrock Cafe. I had no idea what this was. I saw it on the Google Maps on the phone, and I was like, well, it's in between the two places where I'm at and where I'm going, so might as well stop by and check it out. And what a strange and delightful area to stop, the Shamrock Cafe. It's a few seats, it's a wonderful view, and just kind of one of those quirky Kansas things that, you know, you just can't beat. All kinds of little trinkets in here. Got a printer cartridge, not sure what that's about. This is a kind of unique ghost town. The beginnings aren't that unique, as Volland was started because of the railroad that came through here. I'm sitting in front of this two-story brick building, which was built in 1913. The original store that was set up near the railroad is right in front of us, built, you know, just a few years after the railroad was started. They have a little bit of a area there showing, I think, where it used to be. And then this was built, and Volland became a pretty busy place. And it was, you know, several hundred people in this area, kind of township area. And there's the store here, and it, you know, people came to. It's kind of the center of the rural community here. So they would get a lot of people between the railroad and people that lived here coming by, and it was a bustling little community. And then the Depression came and hit, and then World War II was difficult because some of the people left here to get jobs in cities for the war effort, and then by 1950 things seemed to be really, you know, on a downward trend, and it became a ghost town, and no one lived here. And then recently there's been an effort to preserve and reconstruct some things. This building now, I kind of peeked in. It has an art gallery inside of it. It has a loft, so people, I mean, somebody could live here or rent it, I'm assuming. There's, you know, just down the road, there's a schoolhouse that looks like it's been restored somewhat, and so, you know, kind of an interesting area to visit. It's very quiet, pretty cool little town, and interesting history, and it's neat that they have preserved the history so that people can come and see maybe a little glimpse of what Volland used to be. I was driving down the road. I hadn't done any research on this county, and so I didn't know about, you know, where other ghost towns are, and Volland, right down the road from here, there's a cemetery call it Templin, and I thought, well, maybe that's the cemetery for Volland. They don't always name the cemetery the same thing as the town. But then as I was approaching it and I was looking for the cemetery, I found a school. And this school was built in 1904, and did a little more research, and turns out there's a post office here from the 1870s until 1904. And so when this school was built was when the town must have been on the decline. I don't know anything else about the town, but interesting that there's a school here, and looks like a new door. And there's a cemetery, there's a couple other old structures, but we'll look around and see what we can find. Buddy. Welcome to Kansas! Gonna mess up my hair. A little bit windy today. Garçon, coffee.